So the next thing we want to do is talk about shadows and highlights. So I want to go back to my layers and take a look at what we've got here. So before we get started, we want to make sure that every once in a while we are occasionally coming over here to File, and then we are clicking Overwrite so that this work is kind of internally saved within Clicky. Okay, so if anything freezes or disappears while we're working, we can easily fix that. So shadows and highlights. So again, I have my reference figure photo here. So I'm seeing here the left side of the face is lighter, this side is darker. Now, this is a cartoon character, so we do not want to get carried away with shadows, which is something I have a tendency to do. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a new layer for shadows. So you can see I have a layer with my photo, I have a layer with the coloring, I have a layer with the outline, and I have layer 5, which will be the shadow. So what I want to do now is I'm not going to use the color picker, or I am going to use the color picker, but I'm not going to use my reference photo, excuse me. So I'm going back into the paintbrush. I'm going to use the color picker here, and I'm going to pick the shade of my skin, and I am going to go to a darker version of the color, and I'm going to kind of look at it and see what I think. I think that's pretty good. I don't like to go too super dark with my colors. So a couple options here. You can use this tool right here. This is going to put it in there. It kind of like a smudgy texture. So it's going to look kind of like that. Or you can leave it as a line. It's up to you. Again, that's visual preference. I'm going to use this just for fun. And I am going to decrease the size quite a bit. And I am going to decrease the opacity. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of put in some suggestions of shadows. So I'm going to put them there where I see my most prominent shadow. I'm kind of going to add a line, essentially, is what I'm doing. So now I'm going to add maybe a little bit there and a little bit right here. So it's almost like I'm adding to my implied line. So I'm putting shadow there. And it's really not, it's not this, the shadows are not going to be this super pronounced thing in your drawing. I like them to be pretty soft. So I am actually going to move this one underneath the lines. I don't know if you noticed, you could see my coloring was going over the outline. So I'm going to keep my outline on top of everything. And I'm still in layer 5. I want to add a little bit of value here. And I'm getting this information from my photo. I am not making this up. I am getting the information from my reference photo in the left. So once again, very soft suggestions of shadow using line quality, essentially, with a lighter line. And I think a line being darker or lighter is also part of line quality. The darkness or lightness of a line, the thinness of a line, the type of line is line quality. And maybe a little bit more under here. All right, so you can see that's kind of all I did for the shadows. I'm not going for anything drastic or profound with my shadows. So the next thing we want to do is the highlights. So again, using my reference photo, these are going to be the lightest part of the drawing. So I'm going to use my color picker again, find my original skin tone, and then I'm going to move it towards the white. And I'm going to put it in here. You could add a separate layer if you want to. That is up to you. I do like to do a little bit more blending with this. So I'm going to kind of put in where I want my highlights. So they're a little rough right at the moment, but I'm going to blend them in. I'm just kind of laying them in there. A little bit right there. And that's probably all I'm going to do with highlights. But I'm going to play with this smudge tool some more, and I'm going to go back and forth between this light value and then my original skin tone. So now I'm going to take my skin tone, and I'm going to kind of soften the edge of that, kind of blend them together. So you can see it's not quite as pronounced as it was. Because again, when we're adding the shadows and the highlights, we don't want anything major. Now with the hair, you could also choose to add highlights there as well. The hair is always super fun to play with. So I'm going to pick my color picker, pick the hair, and again, I'm traveling upwards and over towards the left, towards the white, and now I'm going to add a little bit of that value in there too. And again, you could create a separate layer for this too. It's up to you. I'm just going to add, think of it again as that line quality, an implied line, and then maybe I can go back, pick the original color, and then kind of blend that in so it's not quite pronounced as it was. So just kind of getting these edges and blending them and getting rid of that line right there. The tool that I'm using is called the blend tool, but do know that the blend tool is a color. So you can draw with the blend tool. This is the smudge tool. It just kind of moves your value around. I prefer this over this, but again, as you're playing with this and figuring out how you like it, that is entirely up to you. So I am going to stop there with the highlights because I think that looks really good. And then we're going to talk about background.